Hello and welcome to Pitch Deck Clinic, where today we've got Daniel from, well, Daniel, over to you. Give us the 30-second elevator pitch on what you do. And it's quite different and it sounds hugely appealing for humanity. Over to you.
So the company is called Ti Soil Ecology Laboratory, and the aim is to allow farmers to switch to organic production without loss of yields. And we're using biology to achieve that. So we can remove all chemicals from food production. My main target of interest is wheat for daily bread, because you can't really buy organic bread these days. And there's a little side benefit to using this sort of biology, and that is sequestering carbon. We could be sequestering 100% of UK's annual greenhouse gas emissions on half of agricultural land in the UK. And so 8 million hectares of land applied. That's my personal goal.
That sounds amazing. And so, you know, here at SeedLegals, we see lots of amazing founders, and some of them want to do good for the world, and some of them have a viable business proposition. And it's not always the case that the two combine together. So I'm hugely excited. So when I got the pitch deck, I was keen to take a look at what it was. And I had some expectations of, you've spoken about green, you've spoken about ecology, and then I got to a pitch black deck. So what we'd like to do in the next 15 minutes or so is go through the slide deck, looking at sort of 4 aspects. Number 1 is the look and feel. Number 2 is the messaging and proposition. Number 3 is the valuation and the financials, and then we'll cover any other things. So let's start with the look and feel. So, you know, from what you've described, I would have expected to see a field of wheat, some cows, something green, sunshine, you know, British agriculture at its finest. So I think that there is a lot of work that can be done to turn this into something that looks uplifting, looks like the future, and gets people to buy in. You know, if you've got anyone using the product, can you take photos of their you know, fields and so on? And I think that will really, really bring it to life. So that's sort of message number 1 on the look and feel. I think all things, you know, if it's shampoo, you can have pictures of people with shampoo in their hair and things like that. It's really, a lot of it is for an investor. It's about, you know, the lifestyle, and I think that can really draw them in. So let's now turn a little bit to the messaging. So I love the messaging. It's about the green revolution. It's about the big picture. It's about showing how things are changing. I think if your graph is to show that produce is keeping growing, you either want to go less back in time or maybe a lot more back in time, because this graph looks somewhat flat, right? So I don't think it's really aligned with the messaging of growth, but that's okay, right? There's obviously a great deal, you know, the organic part of the market's tiny, it can be much larger. So now I think the next graph is slightly kind of counterintuitive. It begs the question, why is organic land area declining? So you might think about the next part of the messaging is that every slide is part of a story. If it's not part of the story, maybe it doesn't need to be there. So you might think, is this slide actually adding to the story? To me, maybe the story is, you know, organic is a tiny percentage of the total. I might want to see the percentage is really small, and the reason it's small is because the chemical costs or the alternatives or whatever it might be. And this to me then represents change to a different type of slide, represents your business opportunity. So the next step in the story, which you've correctly got here, is you start with the lifestyle image, then the what it is, then there's the problem. I think the problem slide and the solution side are a lot of words. And these, again, could be beautiful images. It could be a piece of wheat or something, or a rolling field. It could be a farmer spraying things. It should be some picture that goes with the problem that you're looking to solve. And I think the problem, you know, people don't read these days. So you want a few bullet points. The problem, too many hectares, too much fertilizer, whatever it might be, and then in small letters, something about the solution. These could also perhaps breathe over a few more pages. Your slide deck is just 15 pages, which is awesome, but you've got the luxury to make it a few more if needed. And I think here, this is one of the key things that you might tease out to be more powerful. So here you've jumped sort of back to a previous part of the story, which is about the land. So I think this one goes earlier on because the story has changed direction. You were showing us the problem and solution, and now you've got back to the land, okay? So now we come to the next part of your slide, which is the product that you're offering. You've explained the product, the problem, you've explained the solution, and here's what you've got. And I think this is the key missing piece for an investor, which is what you've got. I can see, you know, as we started the video, you're actually on your farm. There are warehouses and hay and stuff behind it. It's awesome. But I think the key is to package this up to look like a growth startup. And here, over the coming slides, you'll see it's about, you know, the company's name has got labs in it, which of course AstraZeneca has as well. That's, you know, potentially really good. But it also needs to look more like, with the injection of capital, you're really ready to scale rather than you're going to keep experimenting. So over the current and next slides, you'll see that for me, you can repackage this. So let's say the products slide. You've described in a lot of words here two things, products and services. I would say put this on two slides. The products could have you know, a photo creation of a bag of whatever it is that you're selling, right? And a price point on it, or a person pouring something. So the investor can see it looks and feels like a product. If only they invested, you'd be able to sell tons of whatever it was. So you can bridge the believability gap between, you know, we're using your money to do some further experiments, and oh, if you just put some money in, we're ready to scale. Now, you may not be there yet, of course, but that doesn't mean you can't mock it up to show what it might look like. Likewise, on the services, you might show a person standing inspecting some things, and you can go to Shutterstock or wherever it is and get some stock imagery. In fact, I hate stock imagery, so you might try a site like Unsplash, which has got really cool photos, free for at least you know, CC use. So try those, and then the whole slide deck can come to life and change between a what if to it looks like it's built. Okay, so now we come to the team section. I think the team section should have pictures of people. It should be happy, smiling pieces. Maybe a little hierarchy, you know, you're the CEO, there are some other people, these are my advisors. Bring it to life with pictures of the people, and then the whole thing becomes memorable. And again, on a suitably colorful background. You might also change just the title of, you know, Soil Food Academic Pioneer to something that would be a BuzzFeed headline, invented sorghum something, whatever, I don't know. Okay, so turn it into what would you do that, you know, has changed the world? Give me in 8 words or less, okay? So now we come to some of the valuation and the financials. So firstly, it's very nice you've put the risk to capital condition. This is a key part that HMRC needs for its SEIS Advanced Assurance application. But you didn't need to put this in the slide deck. Every investor knows there's a risk to capital. I'd remove that. Now comes your strengths, weaknesses, and threats. I think that's very nice. I'm not sure it really belongs in the slide deck. I think you might, you know, maybe put it, if you wanted, on 2 slides, which is our strengths, why are we different, why you should invest in us. That's key. I think the weaknesses really become, to me, who are your competitors? There's, you know, usually a little matrix. I'm sure there are many competitors in the space. Why are you different? Why should I invest in you? And I think that hasn't been teased out here. So then we come to the business model. And I think the business model is another piece where I think you need to go further to show the investor that you're ready to scale. So investors like to see they like to see a company that has done the R&D already, ideally, unless they're investing in an R&D company. And with the injection of their money, it's now ready to scale and very soon get a return on investment and get, you know, a 3x year on year or 5x year on year in the early stages growth. So how can you change this slide and indeed maybe the model itself to show that with your money we're ready to scale?
I'm very sorry for interrupting.
No, go for it. Yes.
This is a late R&D company. We will be getting R&D tax breaks, and we will be also applying to Innovate UK for a smart grant. We still need investors to cover operational costs to have a chance to win that grant. But this is a late R&D with a potential for revenue in 2021, quite high potential for revenue. This is our aim, but this is still a late R&D. There are certain things that still need to be properly completed in terms of development.
I hear you, and so I'm delighted that, you know, there's potential revenue in 2021. That doesn't not align with what I've been suggesting. So what you might show here is you might show a timeline of, well, obviously now it's 2021 pretty much, starting with 21, 22, 23, 24, showing maybe, you know, no revenue or a little bit of revenue in 21, more revenue in 22, and then more in 23. So even though, of course, you're showing I'm still in the R&D stage, you're showing that that's going to end and that's going to turn now into a growth segment. So I like to see that sort of chart showing some potential revenue. And I think that's one of the key things missing, which is how much are you going to be planning to make? How large is the market? Is the opportunity here that you're going to be selling £100,000 or £1 million or 10 million? How will you scale from the UK and beyond? So different investors are looking for different things. Angel investors might be looking for, of course, their SEIS and EIS, and maybe a 5 times return on their investments in a few years' time. A VC would be looking for you to make an exit of 100 million plus, and that means, you know, millions in revenue. So you're going to target something to different audiences, but regardless, the audience is going to want to see some growth targets, both so that they understand what their return on capital might well be. They might understand your acquisition or growth potential. And they might also then assess the market opportunity and how much they might want to be in for. So showing that, I think, is again the difference between, I think, you know, every slide deck has a story. And here I think there are 2 stories to what we see. Number one, minor one, lots of beautiful graphics will, I think, bring it to life given the area it's in. But the bigger piece, and I think the takeaway point for anyone watching this, is I love the fact that this is, you know, R&D at the moment. And it's also very much a services business. To be really investable, investors love to see a scale business, a scale up business. So how do you transform the pitch deck? You know, obviously cognizance of what your business actually is, but to show the scaling potential, show that the R&D is now, and then there's the building, the selling, the bags of it, whatever it might be, packaged up so that the investor sees that. So let me quickly jump into the last couple of slides. You've got access to market. I like how that you're showing you don't have to do paid advertising, but I would probably ditch the slide. I don't think it's adding a great deal of value. You know, saying that your market is on Twitter is great, but it's not telling the investor anything that, you know, they probably don't already know. So I think the last slide, by the way, pretty much other than the ask, is the traction so far. So I think you've covered the traction here, which is somewhat good. I don't think you need to make a big deal out of the no founder debt. Our SeedLegals data shows that founders put a median of £26,000 into the company. I think unless it's significantly more than that, investors don't really care. So this isn't a big selling point. It's nice. I think having mentioned the Innovate UK grant, I think that would be a good thing, because if you can get that, then of course it indicates some validation and, you know, some additional free capital, so to speak. Now comes the ask, and what you've done is you put the ask, the money in and the money out on the same slide. I would probably turn that into 2 different slides. the last slide would be, we're looking for 200K, offering SEIS and EIS, with the 20% equity being offered. Before that, you might have, how are we looking to use the money? And then I think the last slide I would normally have is just a thank you, contact me, and I would put my email address, because no one's going to actually write to you. They're going to go and drop you an email. So I hope that was helpful. Did you have any questions? Any things we didn't cover? Anything you didn't agree with?
The two things that come out the most is the business development progression graph and the overall look and feel of the pitch deck. You obviously have got a lot of marketing experience, and I have looked at slide decks with sort of like this green theme, and with leaves and whatever. I opted for this mainly probably because I'm a black and white person. I'm an old metalhead, but the other thing is that the background is actually a rendered picture of mycelium, and I work subsoil. So that's where the connection with that black deck is. But definitely the green look to match the green message, and the progression. I think those are the two most valuable things out of this this clinic. So thank you. So this is a proper farm with producer's grain. This is the building that I'm renting at the moment, with a big pile of material I'm looking to process. And back in the distance, there's an RAF base. So we've got some nice flying activity. And this farm also has a green waste processing site, which gives us the scalability in 2 or 3 years' time, actually, to grow this business. So that's a quick snapshot.
All right, so Daniel, thank you so much. Usually I talk to companies doing mobile apps in Shoreditch, so I'm totally delighted to see, and for our viewers to have a quick tour of the farm.